extremely well this Friday, the 9th of January. Yeah, this month is going extremely fast. Bobby is in the chat already. Hello JB, hello chat. Please smash the like button and please do subscribe. Yeah, we just the first thing to say is a big thank you. We are in and around 30k. It's been fluctuating all day, but we literally did hit the 30k mark last night, which is absolutely ridiculous. So it's a big thank you to everybody. Look, this is a win for you guys. Logan Dina says hello, my friend. Look, this is a big, massive win for us. To be fair, 30k is absolutely ridiculous. I don't actually know what's going on with YouTube today, by the way, so bear with me. Hopefully the stream's good. Hopefully it is good and it's streaming live. It says the connection is good. Here we go. It's good. So let me know in the chat. Look, it's a big thank you, guys. 30k is absolutely ridiculous numbers. When I started this, I never genuinely believed I'd get more than 2 or 3. It's a very, very cliche thing to say, but look, this channel is a community, is built by you guys. Without you guys, this genuinely means zero. So look, massive thank you. And as I said, I will be giving shirts away. So what I am going to do is I'll give away. I'm going to do a show that's a subscriber only chat show. So basically, I'm probably going to do one tonight, and then get in your names and stuff, and then I'll contact you. Or if you contact me, then I'll let you know who's won, and then I'll do the free shirts and that sort of stuff. But we will find a way through it. So the first thing to say is welcome to the community. I am JB. This is the United Devil channel. Get into the community, best community on this platform. Be respectful. Be respectful to the community first and foremost. Be respectful to yourselves, because I know you better than that sometimes. And be respectful to me. We don't mind banter. The first thing to say is you don't have to support this club to be on here. It's all about respect. We absolutely have no problem with people coming on and giving us banter. Look, at the moment, I fully appreciate. It's difficult for us United fans because we know we're going to be bantered, and look, we've got thick skin, so bring on the banter. We don't mind. Second thing to say is I'm not a dictator of this chat. Genuinely, I do read out all your chats. This is why this show takes so bloody long. I don't mind it. I love it, in fact, and get into this community. So look, as I say, who would you prefer to be the next coach? Good point. So I'll give you an update. As I said, I keep getting messages from a person, keep telling me, giving me updates on all the stuff. Basically, this managerial merry-go-round is getting worse. This is all about. This is that Fabrizio Romano's basically come out and put some stuff out there today about the manager, and one of the things that United want in the interim is a coach with Premier League experience. Ruud van Nistelrooy has come into it now. Ollie, Ruud, Fletcher, they basically haven't got a clue. They haven't got a clue what they're doing. This is a power struggle. Well, one of the things that Fabrizio has said is that basically United want this beautiful football. It's all a load of spin and absolute zero. It's just a bunch of spin. So look, the managerial interim race is going to happen. United are basically trying to spin it around. I still think I've been getting news that it's still going to be Ollie, but it's all about spin. It's all about who is going to make them look less like a bunch of fools, and we'll get on to the protest stuff as well. But look, getting your questions now to answer that question: who would I prefer? There are two coaches that I would prefer. I'd prefer Eddie Howe, and I would prefer Emery. Flower Jab says Radcliffe, the man without a plan. Exactly. Look, these people are not best in class. And look, I would love to do a show on transfer window, right? I would love to do a show on telling you guys that we're going for these players. Look, some menu today it has put on a City shirt. Man City do their business. We are not doing business. As 8 says, yeah, I would prefer these two. And one of the things to say as well is this: when we're thinking about a culture, we can talk about Enrique, Zidane, Xavi, Nagelsmann, and all that sort of stuff. But what we've got to understand as a fan base, unless they invest in this team, Callum Thorney says boo. I don't know if that's boo to me, but look, I don't mind the banter, my friend. Absolutely no issue at all with the banter, Callum. I don't mind being booed. It is all good. I've just got a message. Actually, Callum says I hate United. Look, absolutely no issue with that at all. Look, as long as look. As I say on here, get in your opinions. It's no issue at all with your opinions. Absolutely no issue with that at all. As long as you look, Callum. What I'd love, Callum, is look as this community is, and look, mate. Liverpool FC fans are welcome here, right? Look. One thing that you learn about this community is, look, I don't have a problem with you disliking the club. I think hate is a very, very strong word, Callum. Look, on this channel, I will respect Liverpool for a number of reasons, and if you've listened to this channel before, look. I've got no problem with fans. I've said many times that Liverpool are a fantastically run club. And look, as long as Callum, that hate is not directed towards this channel, because look, we've done nothing wrong. I think fans from different clubs should actually support each other. I've given my support for not support, but I've sympathised with Liverpool, their players. When your channels have been screaming and shouting for slot out, and now these players are not doing great, they need time. And the one thing that I do admire about Liverpool is basically how you fans do your business. Liverpool are seeming to give their players time, and this channel is not about hate at all. So look, get into the chat. No problem with that. As long as it's respectful to the channel, got no problem at all in a little bit of banter. Both is good for you, Callum. Let's have a little look. Barry says, my issue now is the calls for patience from the fans over the years, trust in the process and cultural resets. Aaron just proved not even the managers at United can show some patience. And look, I want to get into the protest. Look, one of the things that's disappointing me this morning, Sully says, if you can't, the pattern of the board and the players are not good enough, and also the managers have to force the board to back them. They lied, and so we are. Flower Joe says, was Gary Neville the catalyst behind this? Radcliffe watched too much Sky Sports. Callum said, I subbed you. Callum, thank you, mate. Absolute legend. I really appreciate it. We do have some good Liverpool fans on here as well, and you're clearly one of those as well. We have so many rival fans that come in here. Look, we've got no problem with rival fans. One of the things on this channel, mate, is I will read out your chats and I will interact with you, because I think it's important. I think it's really important to get many views. Right? I'm open to views, and it's interesting to get views of other fans, because right now I fully accept that we're a a banter club. I don't like the fact that we are, but we're going to get into it today, and we're going to let's talk about it. So look, protests. One of the things that's disappointed me today is the 1958. If you see it, it's all over the MEN. It's just not being promoted enough. So one of the things that many of you have asked for and have called for, Sally says, I call this board behaviour false professionalism, gaslighting, lying and deceiving. Sally, look, I agree with you. You know, the fact that we're having this chat this morning about this club is really, really important. You know, the disappointing thing this morning, after the reports that the 1958 are going to protest, and I do hope there are other channels that support this. I'm going to support this. I will support this as much as I possibly can on here. Have announced that they're going to protest before the Fulham game on February the 1st. Right? The disappointing thing for me this morning is I get links and I get sent thumbnails and all sorts of stuff. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody is talking about this. Now look, this may not happen. This was planned before, and the protests may not happen. But we've been talking about this. Many of you have been talking, and the comments this morning about this board. Will Cox, Omar Barada, Favel, Sir Jim, the Glazers. You know, what do we do? Callum, I'll give you my quick opinion on that. What do you think about Martinelli to Conor Bradley? Give me a little bit more information. I don't know what was said there, so give me some context, and then I'll give you my opinion. I don't know what Martinelli did or said. The 1958 statement is an embarrassment. It's just a whinge, blames everyone, and doesn't actually suggest anything other than a vague sense that we need new answers. And look, Barry, I get that. I do get that. I do get it. I've read the statement, but look, the problem is handbags. He pushed him. Nothing more than that. Look, Martinelli. Look, Arsenal. I'll give a quick one on that. Look, Arsenal are trying to win a league. As much as I don't agree with it, it's passion, right? I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it, and they will not get called about it, and they absolutely will not get called out on it. But that's down to the Premier League, right? And Callum, look, if that has happened, then Martinelli should be banned, 100%. If you do that to a player, and it's a dangerous thing, then Martinelli should be banned. Let's have a little look what we're saying on here. I will come back onto the statement as well. Hopefully it's a proper protest like Liverpool a few years ago, not the crappy walk to the stadium, chanting songs and then watching the game. Bobby says, I thought it was disgraceful. Red Devil says, what do we do? Do we sell our souls to the Arabs or become part of the chess game? We can't take the foot off the gas this time in terms of INEOS pressure. It's great to finally be here, says Henderson. Thank you, my friend. Look, I'll get on to the 1958 statement. Look, there is nothing really in it, right? It basically says that there is a vote of no confidence against the Glazer family, against Ratcliffe, Omar. There's a demonstration, and basically they've said they have described the performances as a mediocre. They've said Sir Jim is an incompetent clown, and they need to react. And look, I understand the statement is short and sweet, but the fact that the protests are back, I think, is really, really important. Now, to go back to what Alex Ferguson has said, look, I agree. I think what we need to see is a coming together of fan channels. I think we need to see a coming together of other fan groups to come together. And look, I do fully appreciate, look, a march. Where do we go on this one? Do we, we to protest, it depends on the nature of it, right? We're all clambering for a proper one, a sit down outside the stadium. How do you disrupt and impact the game? Fans come and pay for their tickets because they love the club. I don't. The one thing I want to say here about the protest stuff is this, right? Whatever happens, if fans still go to the game, there should be no comeback on those fans. The fans that pay their tickets, they go to the games. Look, there should be no protest against the fans. This is not fans. Like in an ideal world, you would empty the stadium, right? You would not go into the stadium. We'd all stand outside protesting, and we'd all do the massive big thing. Now, if this protest goes ahead, I will cover it. I will go there. As long as the protests happen, I will go there, and I will stream from there as well. I'll make content from there as well. The thing is here, we need to be very, very careful, because the media will look. The media, the last time, will call us disgraceful. The media will absolutely not back this at all. There's only the MEN really coming out on this. I've seen this morning thumbnails from different channels. Nobody is leading on this. Nobody's talking about the protest. Now, whether to go back to the comment as, are they under the impression that this protest, and the protest is back, by the way, is just going to be a march? But the fact that nobody's given this any like a highlight, I think unless channels start to do that and come together and talk about the protests and what the protests should be. Alex Ferguson there has given his opinion. I want to know your opinions. How do you think a protest should be? Do you think that just a bunch of people walking to the stadium and causing issues outside, given the visibility, because you're going to get Sky Sports there, you're going to get all sorts of outlets there. Do you think that's enough? Do you think that, and again, I'm going to offer a couple of sides here. Do you think that basically we should try to disrupt people from going into the stadium? That's something you shouldn't really do, and I'm not promoting that. This is just a question. Do you think this is a case of now it's got so bad that you actually need to boycott the stadium? Try to boycott this as much as you can. Make it a Liverpool sort of one, whereby you make this a massive thing. Now, you give me your opinions as to the protest. What should this be? I don't know what this is going to be. Is this going to be 50 people? How do you incorporate? How do you get this message out there to this needs to be bigger? Is this on us? Like the question here would be how many people will go to the protest? For me, if this is still on, I will go to the protest. I will cover the protest, because I think it's really, really important. But how many people? And again, this is more of a question. This is not a dig. We're all clamoring for a protest, right? I live in Essex. I live 250 miles away. I'm willing to drive, to train, to go to there to cover the protest, mainly because of the channel. Look, I'm not looking to do clickbait. I will cover the protests on this channel, not for clicks, but because I really think it's important to highlight the protests. We all talk about this on here, and I promise you this is not a dig, but how many of us on this channel would be prepared to meet up and go there and as a collective offer our support from this particular channel? And this is not a dig. Many people have lives and families and don't feel as strong, but there are many of us who talk about it, but how many of us will actually go to the protest? And it's numbers. I think that the problem with the protest is the amount of numbers. If we can get the more numbers, the more people talk about it, the more numbers that they get. I think numbers here is the issue. I think getting people to actually go out there and protest. If you had like imagine this, right? Imagine if you got 100,000 people, even 10,000, 50,000 people marching the streets and going to the stadium. You don't have to do anything else. If there are numbers there, that will speak volumes more than anything else. So look, I am promoting on here 1958. Any other fan group that is deciding to do it, any other channel, I'll absolutely support that. I'm of the opinion that I think fan channels should come together and have a chat about this and promote it as much as they can to their subscribers. But I'm fully in support of a peaceful. I do not want to see people. I don't think that violence is the answer. I actively promote a peaceful. I want it to be peaceful. I want to see it peaceful. I want to be respectful, because look, as a community and as a channel and as a club, we should be bigger than the club. I know it's frustrating, but what I want to see more than anything else, I don't want to see violence. I don't want to see, that sort of stuff. I don't want to see booing to fans that are going to the ground. I want to see the numbers. I think numbers will be more of a signal to the Glazers, and we continue to do that. But look, that's just my opinion on it, and then we'll talk through. So you give me your opinions, and I'll talk through your opinions. What do? Do we sell ourselves to the Arabs and become part of the chess game? Look, Red Dev, what I wanted to say about that. Look, if I could have my way, and I don't know how possible this is, right? I would have the fans would own the club, or the fans would own 51%, and somebody else would come in and own 49%. So it's always fan-led, right? The debt is cleared. We live off of the money that we make. We make enough money to be sustainable, right? I don't know. I don't know how that would happen. It would probably be impossible. But I would love to see a fan-led club or fan-owned club where people can buy into the club and have they say. And overall, the majority of fans would own it. But again, there are ways and there are things, because people would argue, and there's all sorts of stuff, right? But in an ideal world, what I'd love to see is a harmonious the majority of fan owned. And again, you can raise cash that way as well. But that is what I would like to see. But right now, we need to clear this debt. We need to get these Glazers out, INEOS out, Sir Jim out. But that's where I'm at. Let's have a little look. Red Devil says, I'm watching your stream from Australia. 30-year-old support. I love they're my life. Look, mate, I appreciate all the way from Australia. Legend. Look, it blows my mind that we get so many people from all over the world. And look, massive respect, my friend. I'm glad you're here. Counters, I think Martinelli deserves a 10-match ban, and I do hope that the Premier League look back over that. Flabberdaver says, "Sell our souls to the Arabs. You're not complaining about the ethnic origin of the Glazers." Is that? No, that's. Is that at me? I don't know. I don't think it is. And the serious question: who's going to be the next coach? So look, the problem for me is this, right? Everyone's talking about a Xavi. Everyone's talking about a Xavi, a Tuchel, a Ancelotti. You know, these managers who are big names, right? What we've got to get our heads around is what sort of team, what sort of support are they going to get? These managers are outspoken. This club sacked Ruben Amorim. Let's be clear on this, and we're getting spin about, you know, and again, it was said, right? It was basically said that Wilcox and Omar went into Carrington, right, and basically said to those players that, you know, they didn't understand what happened. You know, Ruben had issues. You know, they sacked the manager because Wilcox, and I just need to stress this, who is Jason fucking Wilcox to be making decisions? I know he's the director of football at this club, and that is an absolute ridiculousness. The fact that you've got a guy who has no experience in this role, learning on the job, brought in by Omar, absolutely. Jobs for the boys. I'm going to try not to do the friends thing again because I know that bugs people. But how is he best in class? Amorim was sacked because he'd had enough of being told what to do by somebody that has told him to look. Amorim was brought in to play a back three. And then you've got, and again, if you've not seen the Ferdinand thing that I've put up there, ridiculous, right? Wilcox was telling him to play a back four. Like, you bring in a coach and then you undermine him. You know, how are these players supposed to respect the coach? How are these players supposed to? And again, I'm not backing these players here, but I'm talking about from a perspective of respect. How is a manager supposed to lead when you've got cretins like that who are telling? Their job is supposed to support the manager. It's supposed to work in tandem with the manager. It's supposed to support him. And when he sees things that don't go right, Ferdinand basically said that Wilcox gets the club and he backs his idea of what this club should be. Jason Wilcox has no idea what this club is. Jason Wilcox has no idea what United is. You can't. Jason Wilcox came into this club and said he didn't see the link between the owners, the football side, the youth, the main team. How is Jason Wilcox best in class big enough to sort that out? How can Jason sit there and think that he knows best? It's ego. You know, we bring these people into the club who are supposed to be best in class. Ashworth, he was brought into the club and was sacked because he didn't agree. You know, Amorim was fired not because of the formation or the tactics. He was sacked because he wouldn't toe the party line. And to answer the question, who is going to be the next coach? I don't know, because they want a yes man. This is look, we're going to be spun from now until the manager comes in, because they want to put on a face. You know, this is why. So look, I get stuff. I get sent stuff. I got sent stuff basically saying that Solskjaer is going to be the coach, but watch out for Carrick. Watch out for Ruud van Nistelrooy, because basically right now it changes from day to day, because there is egos involved here. You know, you've got Omar pushing for a manager, you've got Wilcox pushing for the manager, you've got a Vavell pushing for a coach, and don't forget a Vavell works under Wilcox as well. You've got, you know, Sir Jim has got a voice in this. They're all mixing. Not one of them can decide on who should be the coach. The basic premise of this is which coach is going to bring less noise into this club, who is going to make this team feel good, who is going to basically back Glazers and the INEOS, the Glazers, until the end of the season. Now, it's been reported that Solskjaer is going to be earning 60k a week with a bonus of £3 million if he gets to the Champions League. This is the leadership, right? Now, to answer the question, who should be the next coach? For me, you go and get the best in class and you back him. We're not going to do that. The next manager for me, therefore, has to be somebody who's going to have to come in and work with a Luke Shaw. This manager is going to come and have to work with a Dalot. This manager is going to have to come in and work with an Ugarte. Unless these players get sold, this manager is going to have to come in to this squad, into this absolute mess, and do something. So for me, there are only a couple of coaches that could do that, but will there be a yes man for the club? Eddie Howe, for me, would be the guy. Emery would be my first choice for a number of reasons. But look, Aston Villa are not going to let him go, and would he come to the club anyway? You know, Rory says Arsenal will bottle it. Callum says Old Trafford is falling down. Old Trafford is leaking water. 10-match ban push. He also thrown the ball at him. You'll never empty Old Trafford because we are a global people, make trips from the other side of the world to watch the great club. And yes, that is so true. This is why I don't want fans to be blamed for this. If the protest happens, which hopefully it will, fans that travel from the rest of the world to come over. Look, fans that go to games, they are not the ones where the anger should be aimed at. You know, they spend their money. That's fine. It's numbers. It's numbers that is needed. It is numbers, not necessarily actions. The action is you basically, what you can do is you can shut down the walkway. You can shut down roads. If they're expecting 100,000, maybe even, you know, like 150,000, they will have to shut down roads. Now, this is the action that is needed. Is that we need to shut down roads. You know, the moment you shut down roads, and imagine a wave of people outside that ground, all being respectful, all talking amongst each other, supporting, and imagine closing down roads. Those are the actions that need to happen. You know, police walking with a group, you know, being positive, supporting the group. The action that needs to be taken is by sheer numbers, closing down stuff, closing down roads. You know, you make people's lives harder, and what I mean is, you know, you're not allowed to drive into the city centre. You know, you're not allowed to drive because the protest is so big that you shut things down. You interfere with people's lives, but you do it in a way that is peaceful. You know, you almost stop people from going to the Trafford Centre. You know, you stop people from coming into the city to do their shopping. You know, they can't go to Sainsbury's, they can't go to Tesco. And as bad as that sounds, in my view, that is what you do, is you inconvenience people to show the club, look, there are so many fans here, so many people that will protest against you. In my view, that is what you do. Besides yourself, GoBridge and Sal, you guys are the only ones who go against the owners. People like Adam and Flex, they're always deflecting the negativity from INEOS and putting it on Adam. INEOS Glazers, only American person I would take, knows anything about Donald Trump. I really don't care. MGO Trafford. Let's have a look at what we're saying here. I'm getting 30,000 people. Look, I would love that. I live in Adelaide. I'll come to the protest. And look, this is the sort of stuff that we need. This is the sort of stuff to, if there are numbers, the more people that go, the better that it is, right? So, I'm going because I've got a ticket for the Fulham game. I'll come from South Wales. It's 5 to 6 hours drive for me to get to Old Trafford. And look, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. There's nothing. People don't have to explain their reasons why they want to go to the ground, to the club, to watch the game. Fans should not be targeted here. You are fans. You support this club. I think numbers are the key here. And look, mate, I'm Welsh. So I'd love to know where you're from. But I would drive. Well, I'm going to drive there as well. I'll pack the prawn sandwiches. I just implement the German ownership model, and we'll be fine. Owners still make a fortune. Just give the fans a voice that actually means something. I'm not daft. And Barry, this is my ideal. I think the government should step in here. How the government are so eager to pass things like a compulsory sale order, right? So the government will pass a compulsory sale order to force the freight line just outside of there to sell to the Glazers, right? When you've got an institution that is over 100 years old, why is that not protected in law? Why is that not enshrined and protected in law? I know it's a business. I know that people buy the club, but why can't it be in law that fans that it should be fan owned? These clubs predate world wars. These clubs predate the so many different events, but yet they're not protected. Now, I always believe that it doesn't really matter about the sort of age of the club, but when you've got clubs that actually impact the economy, why are they not protected? Why is it not enshrined in law that football clubs, particularly ours, which is an institution, should be protected from going out of business? Tanya says, love your actions, mate. You are doing a great thing for our club. Look, it is this has to be called out, right? I don't give a toss right now about these players, right? This manager, right? This is bigger than that. This is our club. Old Trafford is leaking. It's falling down to a state where the Glazers have let this club rot and rust so much that they're going to knock it down. Our home is being knocked down. Like, people are not talking about this. People are talking about a shiny stadium, which I get. Now, I wouldn't be opposed to it on the basis of this. If the Glazers had been good owners from the start, they took care of the club, they took care of the stadium, and said to the fans, look, we want to progress as a club. We feel that we need to move away from the ground. We're not going to move far. But as a thank you to the fans for making us money, as a thank you to the fans for making this club an historic club, we feel that we need to go and build a stadium, right? As a thank you to fans. But they're going to be respectful. They're not going to knock the ground down. They could turn it into a museum, right? Imagine that. Imagine if basically the Glazers said, look, we are not going to knock it down because it's so important. We're going to turn it into a, if you like, a museum. We're going to put in the mega store in there so you can walk around. You can walk around the ground, the mega store. It'll be based in there. There's a museum in there. You could do museum tours. You could go in and look at where the players used to play. You can look at basically the history of the club. But no, they're not going to do that. They're going to knock it down because they're going to build fucking houses on it. They're going to knock it down because they're going to build smart new homes, 13,000 homes. I've got no problem in that, but why can't you leave the ground alone? Why can't you either renovate it, and if not, turn it into something? As a thank you, turn it into the megastore, turn it into a museum piece, turn it. I would love to go there. Right? Imagine this. Imagine you've got a new stadium as a thank you to the fans, right? And then imagine you can do a stadium tour and walk around the offices there. You can see where Fergie, Sir Matt Busby, where the players used to walk out. You can, that would be amazing. But if it was done in the correct way, but what they're doing, and this is what people don't get there, they're seeing this shiny new amazing stadium, this state of the art. But you're selling your soul to the devil. You're selling your soul out for the Glazers. And look, again, I don't blame fans at all. But this is what the cost is. The cost is going to be they are going to destroy your home. They have destroyed your home. They will take the very soul out of this club, which they are now. But imagine they're going to literally rip out the heart and soul of this club, and they're going to demolish Old Trafford. I just want people to let that sink in for a second. So look, these protests are so important. Calling the Glazers out, calling INEOS out, Will Cox. I don't give a shit about the manager. I will report on it because I think you guys are interested in it. I don't give a shit about the signings. Unless change happens, the next coach is irrelevant, because guess what? He's gonna have to be a fucking yes man. You can't book people going to the ground. You can't stop people from going to the ground. Exactly. I won't be going to the protest because it doesn't do much. I went to one a couple of seasons ago, and it was just nice to walk and close the store. I agree. It says 51% fan ownership. Tanya says hi. I disagree. Martinelli didn't cause the ACL. Bradley, right back into the pitch. Anana for manager, says Corky. I blinking hope not, mate. Remember Galatasaray? Yes, of course I do. Betty the tea lady for manager. Exactly. A big up JB. Danny is in the house, legend of this chat as always. I live near Preston, and getting into Manchester is a nightmare. Last time I parked in the Trafford Centre, I got the metro, but it was crazy busy. The size of our club, amount of opinions, the attention is going against us. John McQueen says it shouldn't matter who's in charge of this team. The first 11 should be beating Wolves and Burnley, no matter the system. Players are a disgrace. And John, I do just want to say this as well. The Grimsby match. Like, people are not talking about the Grimsby match. These players need to be spoken about as well. There was a first team of the amount of money that gets paid on this first team, and they couldn't beat the Toffees at home. They couldn't beat West Ham. They couldn't beat fucking Grimsby. Like they couldn't beat a Grimsby. You know, this is the state. It's hard fought for you. There is no force. Thanks for saying that the reason. Wilcox is enemy. He played for our rivals, says David. Let's have a little look. I might get the train. Jason Wilcox, who relegated with Southampton for heaven's sake, a bunch of cowards running the club. Exactly. You know, Ruben was the fall guy. You know, Wilcox. There are reports today that Wilcox is in shit. You know, the next head to roll will be his. You know, and I welcome it. You know, I don't celebrate managers losing their jobs, right? Wilcox needs to go, and if Wilcox gets sacked, good. Fuck off. I've got no time for you, mate. You are not best in class. You are learning on the job, and you've now got an ego. Like, what are you doing? Like, also, what this football institution, this football part doesn't understand. The only person who is safe, and even then he can be forced out, is Sir Jim. These people, Omar Barada, Fivell, Wilcox, those are the next guys. Do they not think that the Glazers will sack them to save their own skin? This is about saving your skin. Like, this basically reminds me of, I don't want to say it because I think the video will get banned, is there was a certain party in 1939 to 1945, based on the continent, who tried to take over the world. This reminds me of that. There are layers and layers and layers, and everybody blames each other. This is a dictatorship. This club at the moment is a dictatorship. There are levels. Starts with the manager. In fact, the only people who are safe are the players. Sir Jim and the players, right? There are levels to this game. Amarin is the ultimate guy who will fall. Wilcox will be next. These guys like have their egos, but they're going to be sacked as well. Like this is the bit. This is the stupidity bit. The Glazers are the overlords. The Glazers run this club. Sir Jim has backed them, kept them in power, and this is why it's such a mess. 100%, because this can't keep going on. All these comments, we can't have a Conte, Tuchel, Xavi, Zidane, Simeone, because they won't fit for Wilcox or Ratcliffe. We should be going for Enrique or Emery, but we won't get a top manager. That's why I can see us getting Areola from Bournemouth. That's true. Why are they pushing for Oleg, Carrick, etc.? Because those are going to be the interim guys, right? Apparently, they want people who are, look, in an ideal world, they want as many ex-players as they can supporting this club, because they want to deflect. The reason why they want ex-players is because they deflect. You look at Rio Ferdinand, right? He did a podcast, right? Rio Ferdinand was defending Jason Wilcox, saying that, oh, he's a fantastic guy, he's loyal, he was his good friend. Rio, I don't give a fuck. What has that got to do? Because he's a good guy, he's a lovely guy, he's loyal. Loyal to who? He's not a United guy. What are you talking about, Rio? You know, mate, you should be coming out. And you know, if you've got mates, right? I appreciate people who tell me the truth, right? If you come on here, right, and you say to me, I'm shit, this channel is crap, right, and you're a fan. Now, there's not many of you, so I'm just assuming that the channel is pretty decent, right? And it's decent not necessarily because of me, but because of you guys on here, right? But if I was getting 90% of you saying, look, this channel's crap, you're crap, I would probably stop doing it, because I know that I'm doing something wrong. I appreciate friends who tell me and are honest with me and say, look, I think you're this isn't right, mate. I think you should be doing something else. This is why, in some respects, someone who's your enemy, listen to them, because they will tell you the truth. You know, the problem with this ex-play brigade, people listen to Rio, you know, and he's sitting there pontificating. He's sitting there basically telling you that Wilcox is a good guy. You know, he's spoken to him, and every time he's had the conversation, Rio goes to the ground. Rio gets tickets. Don't listen to Rio Ferdinand. And he's basically saying that Wilcox is this great guy. He's explained to me the vision. This is his vision. He's had it all season. If this is the Wilcox vision of how we should play football, for fuck's sake, Rio, Wilcox was part of hiring Ruben Amorim. So he hasn't got a clue, has he? He was happy to stand back and let us and play a back three. This is a guy, your mate, who is this amazing guy who is loyal, and he's spoke to you, and his vision is great. The guy wanted to play a back three. The guy was instrumental in bringing in a manager that played a back three when we've never played a back three. What vision is that? What vision is it? Flabberjabber says, Ollie at the wheel again. Let's get ready for a bumpy ride. Jonas, don't pick the team. It's the manager. It's always on the manager. Simple fact. Amorim was good enough. Like, John, mate, you know, look, I respect the opinion. I do. I disagree completely. But, you know, Amorim couldn't get a tune from these players. Look, Fletcher can't get a tune from these players. Eric Ten Hag couldn't get a tune. They sacked Ollie, Ranić. None of these managers can get a tune from these players. This is bigger than the plays, but as you raised it, and John, look, I completely respect the comment. I think people should respect comments. You know, whether you blame the manager, whether you blame, it's fine. My opinion is this: how can look? Who was responsible for Grimsby? Was it Ruben Amorim? Was it the players on the pitch who were awful? You can't train certain aspects into players. But look, John, you know, mate, I completely respect the opinion. Doesn't matter who the manager is, head coach. No proper manager will work with such an inconvenience at the board level. What does fan sack Jason mean? Just sub to your channel, mate. Look, thank you. Look, I appreciate it. You guys, look, subbing to the channel and giving these video likes, right? Especially this particular one, right? If you support the protests, give me a like. And it's not giving me a like, by the way. It's just that what it does is it pushes the video out. Now, I want to promote this as much as we possibly can. You know, just giving a video a like, you know, probably more than a sub today, because I want to push this video out as much as I possibly can, because we need to highlight this. So Barry says, so are we now at a point where the coach that is needed and just let Wilcox do all the press, find a Farrier, Pep Lijnders type, and don't forget about the superstar manager? Wilcox should be the one to, and okay, I just want to make this point, by the way, right? Wilcox is such this amazing guy. Wilcox is responsible for this mess. Wilcox is telling Ruben Amorim to play a back four after you got a manager in. He's got the ego. Jason, front up. Jason Wilcox is prepared to let Darren Fletcher speak. You are the man in charge. You are the man presiding over this mess. Jason Wilcox, why aren't you talking to the media? Why aren't you front and centre explaining what you've done? Why aren't you coming to the forefront instead of letting Darren Fletcher, who I think right now is doing a fantastic job, by the way, and not necessarily because he needs to do well on the pitch. What is being missed here? What has not been spoken about enough is why Wilcox is not front and centre. This is his mess. He's presiding over this mess. Why is he not fronting questions? Why is he not explaining to the media what is going on? The manager isn't here. Why is he not? He is the director of football at this club. Why is he not sat there explaining what has happened? Why is he not sitting there doing the pressers explaining? Because apparently he is the expert. He's the one involved in buying the players. He's more than happy behind the scenes because he's a fucking coward. Because he's an absolute coward. He's this amazing loyal guy, who is, he knows the vision of the club. Come out and talk. Why are you sending out Fletcher? Why you're pushing? It's basically like you're on the battlefield. You're coming under fire, and yet you're pushing all these people. Why are you letting Darren Fletcher? Why aren't you fronting up to the media like they do in the Bundesliga? Why aren't you fronting up? Because Jason Wilcox is a coward. They are more than happy to sit there at games with their dour fucking faces. They're happy to hire a manager, but they don't take the blame. Why aren't they fronting? Why aren't they talking to fan groups? Why aren't they explaining their decision? Because they're cowards. Keane was talking about Eddie Howe in charge. Yeah, agreed, Bobby. Agreed. I've said on here many times, and I've said today, Eddie Howe would probably be the one that I would choose. Wilcox and the boys should face the press ahead of the coach. I've just said that, Sully. The simplest and most powerful solution is just to support another club and stop buying tickets. Protesting has never worked. The Glazers might care, but Jim Ratcliffe won't blink. I disagree, Sebastian. Look, mate. So, and again, look, that's your view. That's an interesting view. How is that the answer? How is not supporting this club the answer? What? So you jump ship? Like, mate, I've supported this club for nearly 40 years, right? How is me going to support another club, turning my back on this club and history? Just because we're not going, just because we're going through tough times, what you're saying is that you abandon a sinking ship, and then when it becomes good again, you jump back on again. Mate, make that make sense. I know what you're saying here. I get it. But how is that a powerful... So you're basically abandoning your family. No, I would be abandoning in this community. Imagine, Sebastian, imagine this. Tomorrow, I'm wearing an Arsenal shirt. I'm wearing a Liverpool shirt. Everything I've ever said on this channel, everything I've ever done and said, it would make me probably one of the biggest wankers ever. How is supporting another club and jumping away from you guys, jumping away from everything that I've known for 40 years in terms of this club? How is me jumping ship gonna work, mate? Look, I get it, but I can't. If Ryan says, "Hi, my guy, legend, my friend, what the protests for?" And look, these are the protests, Paul, to basically protest against the incompetence of this club again. It is to get the Glazers out. It's to get Sir Jim out. It is to get Jason Wilcox out, Barada out. This is time to get these absolute wankers out. FaceTime and live stream with the supporters around the world. let's agree that Wilcox effed up. INEOS are incompetent. I do agree. How do I subscribe to your channel? I think you double click on the double click on the screen. I think. You want Starmer involved? You're off your head, mate. I'm not saying that I want Starmer involved. Let's take away Starmer. You're being very, very literal, right? This club should be enshrined in law, whether that's Conservatives, Labour, it doesn't really matter. I'm not asking Starmer to do it, right? I'm just talking about a hypothesis, not even that, but I'm talking about a term by clubs. It should be enshrined in law that clubs are protected from owners who are incompetent. Webcut says we need Middle East owners. We will turn into Tottenham and West Ham with new stadium. Joel says we do need someone other than the 1958 to do the protests. They say one thing and then they go into the stadium and get their beers. If they are serious, you do not do that. And look, I'm not disagreeing with that. I think what will be interesting for me to see, and I will go there as well, by the way, I will cover it. I want to see for myself. I want to see what these fan groups do. And if Joe, look, if they protest and if they go for beers in the club, I will report on it. I'm not going to let people get away with this bollocks anymore. You know, you can't march and then go to the stadium and have a beer. No. Clubs ain't just a club. As I say to my wife, United is like a religion to me. It's part of my life. We need a club back ASAP. I don't disagree. I prefer Old Trafford is modernised to a new stadium. Clubs should be treated like a listed building. They shouldn't be tampered with to a point. No longer recognise them. You can still have a TV and a toaster. You just agreed. This is a crest, a badge we wear our on our chest. It means more than anything to fans. The new stadium is a vanity project. It is. Never rip the club. It was continue on. Let's not be dramatic. These owners need to be gone, but it will not happen anytime soon. Sadly, Jim could sell back to the Glazers, and where would we be then? They would be in a position, Joel, where they would have to sell. The Glazers have no money. Sir Jim, if he sold it back, the Glazers can't afford to buy them out. The Glazers cannot afford to buy them out, so he could sell it back, but the Glazers cannot afford to buy it back. Sally says some of these toxic channels just want to be right, get angry quickly once the then become blind to players and the board. Put a pitch in where young kids can play football, and played a small pitch where Bobby, Matt, Ronaldo. Exactly. Everyone says, what if INEOS shares are collateral for Radcliffe's alien business? Look, I've done videos on this channel whereby I've told you Sir Jim cannot buy this club. Look, nobody other than us, from what I can tell, have spoken about Radcliffe's businesses and INEOS have failed. Jim Ratcliffe has taken taxpayers' money to keep his business alive. He takes grants for a guy that built INEOS up. He's not even prepared to back his own company that he built. Tells you everything you know about the man. Hi JB, yes, I'm on my lunch break. Herbie, legend. Hello mate, let's watch. Mate, ridiculous. Ryan says Roy Keane came across as a bitter old man. I do agree. I had a tooth out today, feeling sore, says Nikki. Congrats on 30k too. Thanks, Herbie. Wilcox thinks or thought it was all about him. Wilcox is the devil behind our latest dilemma. Post about Wilcox in danger of losing his job is for clicks. Bears no truth in reality. Chelsea sacked their manager a year. The director of football and CEO continues. Wilcox is a muppet. Talks to the devil. I love this club. I get up at 1 a.m., 6 a.m. on a Saturday to watch my club. I love this club. Wilcox was a plant. This commitment is right. It hurts badly at the moment, but I'll always stay strong. 45 shirts in my closet. It's my whole world. Honestly, mate, you present well. Logical engagement. Congrats on the 30k. Thanks, buddy. Mate, we have so-called supporters in the UK that don't commit like you. I know fans who refuse to watch United because we're going through a bad patch. Look, you know, a fan is a fan is a fan, right? I'm not calling fans out here. You know, I get it. It is in desperate times, people react in certain ways, right? You know, look, just because I and we feel a certain way about this club, I almost look. I care. You can tell that, right? I know many of you care, right? I look, if you leave this club, you're gone, right? The moment you leave this club, I couldn't care what team you support. If you come back to the club, look, you're a fan again. It's not something that I think is right, but you do you, right? It doesn't mean that I don't feel anything for somebody that leaves the club. If you leave the club, that's on you. You're not the reason why this club is in this mess. Once you're not a fan of this club, look, I will respect your decision. That is your decision. But then don't ask me. But then don't expect me to accept it. Don't expect me to. You know, I will still have a logical chat, but don't expect me to then be, you know, welcome you back. You know, if you come back, that's on you. But I don't want to hear that noise. You know, if you're not on board for a fight, then you're not on board. Like, what can I do? Go on, JB. What? Scott is in the house, legend of the chat. Look, guys, look, the 30k on this channel, right, is to do with you guys. As much as I'm the one that sits here in shirts talking, like, it's really easy for me to sit here and talk about this stuff, right? It's you guys that made the channel happen. And look, this is a win for us. You know, and the more success this channel has, the more that I can do. Look, the more success this channel has, the bigger the voice, right? Then people will have to listen to us more. You know, the more people talk about the channel, the bigger we get, the more things that like I can do. I've got loads of stuff planned, but I need to be able to do it. Like, I've still got to work a job. The more successful this channel gets, the more that I can do, the bigger our voice gets as well. Give Keane a go, who sort the dressing room out. There's no leaders. United is like a rental car agency. Ollie at the wheel. Rio does know what he's talking about, though. Director of football, it never changes after he gets sacked. Look, Joel, look, mate, you know, again, I appreciate the things, but I disagree with you. Rio doesn't have a clue. Joel, I disagree completely. Rio has no clue. Some of the takes, look, Rio Ferdinand was streaming from a train station telling us that Dubai had won the race. Joe, I disagree with you. Rio is a company man. Rio talks out of his arse. And look, your opinion is not my opinion, is different to yours. That Rio Ferdinand is a fucking idiot. Quality and desire was enough for Grimsby. Didn't even have a manager exactly. I'd love to see Neville, Rio, Keane or Scholes put their comments online and manage this club. Put Sky or BBC commentary pays well and the backlash is easy for them to handle. I agree. Let's keep going through this set. It's not a director of football job to talk to the media. Joel, I disagree, mate. Look, Joel, we're gonna disagree today. It should be his job. If you're a decision maker in this club and you are that close and you are the one telling a manager to play a 4, he should absolutely be front and centre of this club. The Bundesliga do it. Disagree, Joel. Disagree completely, mate. The director of football should absolutely be the one on this occasion who stands there. Look, so Joel, what you're saying is that he's been instrumental in this fuck up, right? They've sent out Darren Fletcher, who is not a first team coach, and he hides behind it. The Bundesliga send out their guy. Why should he escape it? He absolutely should be front and centre. I disagree completely. Show me, Joel, mate. I disagree, mate. Transfers should not be a subject matter in the manager's presser. So Alex Ferguson never did such. I would even joke about wearing. I know. Let's have a little look. Again, I'm speaking to a wall. Yeah, Joel, mate, you are. Look, Joel, look, mate, Joel, mate, Joel's been on the channel a while, but Joel clearly doesn't like it, so Joel's pissed off. So look, Joel, mate, that's up to you, buddy. Look, we're clearly not for you anymore, Joel. Look, I've got zero time. I respect the opinion, but mate, you clearly don't agree. You clearly can't handle different people's opinions, so you bail. Glazers out. Defend the club, back the manager, support. Defend the club, back the manager, support the team. Disagree. Paul James, you okay, mate? Look, I'm doing extremely well, buddy, and I hope you are too. Legend of the channel. Don't you guys think the players might also be the problem? Look, mate, the players are the problem. I'm not talking about the players today because this is bigger than the players. The players, I can't fucking stand these players. I cannot stand this team. I cannot stand this team. I cannot stand these players. You need my yes. Scott, can you email it to me, please? That goes for, can you email it to me as well? And that goes for Dino as well. Dino Nikarutsu, I know Nikarutsu isn't on here. So Scott, Dino, and Nikarutsu, could you send me your addresses, please? You were talking a lot of sense. I agree with what you're saying. It's hard to protest from Australia. Can't do that at the ground. Exactly. Rio is a muppet. United Stand is the only channel. Then King, fuck off, mate. Look, go and lick the arse of your Messiah. Go and lick the arse of a channel that puts clickbait up. Go back to your channel. King, I couldn't give a shit, mate. Go to your channel if you love it so much. Just I don't know what you're doing here, King. You're not adding to the conversation, King. Go to the channel. Go to your Messiah. Go to a channel where they got presenters who present in an AC Milan top on a United channel, a dedicated United channel who were wearing AC Milan tops, who were talking about a top 4. At one point, King, they were talking about a title race. So go back to the channel, mate. This is a proper channel. This is a serious channel that talk about serious things and not for clickbait. Piss off, mate. Burnley was just as tragic as Grimsby. Did you see the World Cup draw? He couldn't do that properly. I think then that it might exactly, mate. You're on the wrong channel. For that, buddy. Afternoon, great chat about United, even when it's bad. Thanks, buddy. Problem is nowadays, everyone has a voice and thinks that they're an expert when they only know what they hear on social media. I don't rate all the players. I don't agree with all Rubin, but did the support never waver. Scumchester fans are deluded. They think they will get back to where they were a few years ago, and the club is absolute shit show. But I love watching you lot cry. Look, Philip, we don't mind the banter, mate. We don't mind the banter. I think what you're missing, I think your opinion right now, I think is very, very flawed. I think is very, very flawed, because I think if you talk to fans, particularly the fans on here, we will never get back to the top. I'm not asking for that, mate. I'm not. Look, of course, I'd be a liar if I said I wouldn't love to get back to the top and be winning title after title. It's not going to happen. Right, mate? I'm not going to cry. People on here don't cry. If you want people to cry and moan and bitch and whinge, there are other channels for that. They will sit there and they will shout and scream after we've lost. And I could name people. I'm not going to. Their channel is built on them shouting and screaming. Oh, the fucking hell, we lost, fucking hell. Well, I fucking want this manager around, fucking hell, I want this fucking club. That's not what we do on here. If you want to go see people crying, shouting and moaning, there are other channels for that, mate. We talk about this on here. Look, I am not asking for title after title. It would be nice. I'm asking for competent owners. I want to enjoy this club again. Now, I want to feel like this club is competent. I want to feel like we can compete. And fucking hell, at least compete. At least compete for top three. It pains me to say, at least compete for a trophy. At least be in some sort of race for something. When we're never getting back to the top under these owners. But I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for a level of competency. It's we'll have to link up, mate, at some point. Got lots of stories to tell you up, mate. I'd love to, buddy. Mate, my email is in the description, mate. Send me an email and we can catch up. Philip is on one today. He's on one. I'm from Manchester and JB is from Essex, exactly. I'm from near Preston. Good on you. Take it on, mate. Look, there are banter. Look, I'm fully used to banter, mate. I fully accept where we are as a club. Bring on the banter. It's we don't on here, mate. We don't do crying. I just want to be competitive against Wolves and Burnley and Everton. JB takes other things on the chin. Oh, Scott, you're a oh, Scott. We'll always love United. If happens one day, owners living, it might get better. Probably got more chance of the sun shining. What was the other thing I wanted to say on this one? Yeah, look, I will be back tonight, guys. Look, I just wanted to highlight the protester back. If they still continue, I am going to go to the protests. I will stream live and I will take some video of it as well. So Red Dev says it's LMPM here. Got a crash. Great channel, and glad I found you. And sub, mate, legend. Yeah, mate, absolute legend, and I appreciate it, buddy. I will see you again. So guys, I'm going to go. Hopefully I'll do a show tonight. I should do a show tonight in terms of I do plan to do. And look, Dino, legend. Oh yeah, Dino, don't forget, send me your address, mate, and let me know what shirt you want as well. Let me know, buddy, and I will send you a shirt. So you, Nikarutsu, Scott, and obviously when Grace comes on as well, I'll send her in as well. But yeah, so look, guys, send me your details, and I'll get some shirts sent out. Also, as well, I did promise that I will do some shirts as well. So I will do a show again. But what I'll do is I'll only do a comment section for the subscribers. So what that means is that it just means that I can put your names into a hat and send out some shirts. So I will do that, but it has to be UK based. So look, I will send out some shirts. So watch out for a show. I will do that. But yeah, Dino, as a thank you to the mods. Look, Dino, Scott, Nikarutsu, yeah, send me your addresses, and I'll get some shirts, and tell me which one. So go to Club Retros, go on there, let me know. Fan is a fan wherever they are. Exactly, Ryan. Exactly that, my friend. So I will be back this evening. Look, the show today is important. It's important to get it out there. Yes, Scott. I do, my friend. So look, we need to spread out the word. So look, as many people as they can to get this out. So look, today's show is not about the players. It's not about the manager. I couldn't give a shit right now. This is about how do we get these scumbags out, and I think it's really, really important to highlight the protesters. So look, guys, thank you for watching Legends. 30k is ridiculous. I will do a show as a thank you as well. Do I get a name on it? #1 top mod? Maybe. I might put Hammer. I should put Hammer on the back. So guys, I will be back. I am planning to do a show this evening. So yeah, it will be an evening show tonight. So I'll bring on I'm going to put Pivot. I'm going to put Pivot on the back of Dino's. But look, guys, fantastic show. Look, I can only thank you for being here. You guys are legends of the channel. I can't thank you enough. 30k is unbelievable. The channel gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the bigger it gets, the more things that I can do. So look, guys, thank you for supporting the channels. But Bobby as well. I forgot Bobby. I will send you a shirt as well, Bobby. So Bobby, Scott, Dino, Nikarutsu, and Grace as well when she comes on as well. If you go to Club Retros, I think it's called, the shirts are on there. Let me know your size. Let me know what shirt you want, and I will get it all sent out. I need to get them sent to me, and then I will send them out. So that's why, give me your addresses. The quicker that happens, the quicker I can order them as well. So go onto the website. Don't be shy. Send me your addresses, and I'll get them sent out to you as well. I'm good, me JB, but thanks. Fine, mate. All good, buddy. Fine. But look, legends of the channel. I will be back tonight. Thanks, Dino. Legend of the channel. You guys are fantastic. I'm JB. This is the United Devil channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.